Hey everybody, welcome back. I want to do this video real quick as a response to some questions that were posed to me on a discussion. Lately, there's been some talk about Senpai Kohai, this junior or senior junior dynamic when it comes to martial arts. And I want to pose a few questions for you that I think would be interesting to get your response on. Please leave them in the comments. Let me know what you think. But really, and let me just start back up a little bit and kind of describe what this is because not everybody may understand this. Senpai are upperclassmen. In a dojo environment, you have your senior ranked people, and then you have your junior ranked people. So the senpai are the upperclassmen. It's like a university setting, right? You have upperclassmen, you have seniors, and then you have underclassmen or lowerclassmen, your freshmen, your sophomore, that sort of thing. So it really is structured in an academic environment. In the military, it could be seen as military ranks. How you have your sergeants and your officers and your privates and corpsmen and all these kinds of different ranks, structures, and stuff. But we have to keep in mind that ranking in the martial arts is a modern concept. So this whole idea of senpai and kohai is really it can be argued that it's a modern concept. I don't think it is. I think it's always existed, but I think it existed in concept. It wasn't such a rigid structure like that, except for the fact that you have military arts where you had military rank, right? Of course, not like our modern military, but you did have it's a caste system in Japanese and most of Asian culture societies. There's a caste system, and so there's always that upper and lower and that sort of thing. But how does this play out in a dojo environment? And it really boils down to responsibility. What is the responsibility of a senpai? What is the responsibility of a kohai? The responsibility of a senpai is really to provide the example. They are representing the school to the lower classmen. They are representing the school to the kohai and to the visiting people coming to watch. So they are the example of the product of the school. The sensei or teacher, they are in charge of all of that, but it's the students who are the product of that school. And I think that's something that's really important to understand. So the responsibility level of the sensei is really the students themselves, that the product of the quality of their teaching, the amount of knowledge they have, and all that is reflected in the students. And so the responsibility of the senpai is to honor the teacher and honor the school by being the best possible examples they can be. And I'm speaking in the limited sense of a school, but it really goes out to the whole organization. Um, and so what the kohai or the junior or the underclassmen, their responsibility is that they need to learn how to be the best examples. They are in the development phase where they look to the seniors for guidance and inspiration. It's not that the senpai are their sensei, but the senpai are walking the walk ahead of the kohai. So they're guiding based on their example to teach. And this is my own philosophy regarding teaching and learning, is that when you're teaching, you're facing your students. You're giving something to the students. And so as a result of that, you're not looking forward on your own path. In order to be a student, you have to turn and face in the direction you're going, and you have to move in that direction. This is why the term shidoshi is such an incredibly genius term, because shidoshi is to be that living example of the art. And why Hatsumi Soke chose that term instead of sensei, because he wants people to still focus on their own growth and training, but to be the example that others follow. Well, the same thing applies with the senpai and kohai, that the senpai are the example. They're still forward facing, but at the same time, they also look behind them to the kohai who's struggling to keep up. And they're guiding them and providing encouragement because they themselves have been through those challenges and struggles, so they can help the junior to say, keep going. No, just turn your foot this way a little bit. You got it. And that allows the sensei or the teacher to not have to focus so much on the kohai, because the kohai, the juniors, require a lot of special care, right? It's like an infant. How much care do you need to provide for an infant versus an older child? It's the level of dependency is so much greater when they're young. Well, it's the same with kohai, the juniors. There's so much dependency that the kohai needs so much care, because they're not only learning skill, but they're also learning the culture of the dojo, the language that's used, the way you bow. It could be the way you tie your belt. There's so many little things, behaviors, and all of that go into learning an art that the kohai, the junior, has to learn. Well, what they're going to do is, instead of having their hand held, they're going to look to the seniors and copy what they do. And that's a very, very important thing to understand, because it's one thing to talk the talk, it's another thing to walk your talk. And so when you have senpai in a class who don't know how to wear their uniform correctly, they don't know how to bow to the kamidana, they don't know how to stand in kamae, they don't know how to behave in class, they talk during the instruction, things like that. Then they turn around and tell the kohai, "Oh, you need to do this and this and this and this." But the kohai is going to look at the example of the senpai and go, "Well, why should I? They're not doing it." It's the lead by example model, and that's the responsibility of a senpai. The kohai responsibility is to follow the example of the senpai, and it's the old teaching model of success, that if you want to be successful, find somebody who has what it is you would like to have for yourself and do what they did. So this idea of copy is really important. This copying the senpai, but that puts a huge responsibility on the senpai. The senpai have to be very mindful of how they behave, what they do, and how much effort they put into their practice. When the kohai are training harder than the senpai, that's that's a break in that. That's a break. That, to me, that's, I'm sorry if I talk rather strongly on this, but that's an embarrassment to them. It's an embarrassment. The senpai should be training harder than anybody else in the room. The senpai should be the ones still practicing when the kohai are tired and worn out. They need to lead from the front. And again, they're not sensei, but they are leaders. Now, here's what I wanted to kind of touch on, and the questions that I wanted to ask. We are a global organization, as most martial arts, and there are ranks, as most martial arts. When you have a senior ranked person, let's say this guy moves into town and he decides he wants to join this dojo. And let's say he is a shodan. He walks into the dojo, the sensei is there, and there are no shodans. There are all Q ranked people. Is it appropriate for that brand new shodan or brand new person to that dojo, even though they're a shodan in the art or the organization, is that person still considered senpai? And I say that in terms of the dynamic of the class, that you have people in the class training for years. At least in my school, it takes years to get a black belt, uh, but many years. But let's say you have people who are EQ or NIQ. They're almost a black belt, right? They're getting close. They've been training for years, and now you have this guy who comes in who's been training with a completely different teacher coming in to join the class, and he's a shodan. Is he considered senpai? Is he considered the example? Think about that. Is he considered an example for the school? He's coming in with all his experiences and knowledge based on another teacher. Is that an example for the junior ranks to follow? So I'm not saying it is or isn't. I want you to think about that. The same goes with, let's say you are, let's say it is your dojo. And let's say you are a brand new Godan, fifth degree black belt. You are a new Shidoshi. You have your class, your school, and now you have somebody who is, let's say, a Hachidan, an eighth Dan, right? He shows up and he wants to just he shows up and says, "I would like to join your school. It's the only Bujinkan dojo in the whole area. I would like to come in." Is that person considered senpai to the teacher of that school? Now, your first answer is probably yes. But again, look at who is the example. Who is the example, right? Who is that Shidoshi's teacher? And who is that Hachidan's teacher? They could be completely different. So, especially in the Bujinkan. So again, I go back to this idea that Senpai and Kohai are about responsibility and it's about example. It's about providing an example and copying the example and the extreme amount of responsibility that comes with that. And knowing one's place, and also the question of inferred superiority. That because somebody has a higher rank, is it automatically assumed that they are more knowledgeable, more experienced enough to be considered senpai? So I think those are good questions, and I'm very curious to get your answer. Please drop me some comments. Let me know what you think. I would love to read it. For those of you that want to be, snarky and critical and say this or that, whatever. But I really would like some constructive, honest feedback. I'm asking these questions very honestly because I want people to think about these things, because it's easy to fall into the martial arts lingo and throw terms around and things like that without any real deep thought as to what that actually means. And to me, it seems like a lot of people like to use terms and they like to use Japanese language as a way to invoke some power over somebody else, right? Or a way to sound more authoritative, or a way to to make themselves seem more knowledgeable. But really, that's just a facade, right? It's just a mask. It's smoke and mirrors and marketing and manipulation and things like that. So these discussions are really important, and I also think that human behavior plays a very essential role in this. That, I mean, let's face it, there's a lot of narcissists in martial arts. Uh, it's a complete playground for narcissism. So these type of topics, senpai, kohai, that sort of thing, they're just tools that can be used for that. So I want some honest discussion about this. So let me know what you think. Well, I appreciate you listening to this, and I really appreciate your input, if you choose to provide it. And let's keep these kinds of discussions going instead of who's doing what wrong and that sort of thing. Let's actually do some constructive analysis and discussion about these things that we use so frequently, because people say shut up and train, and I might do another video on this, but honestly, if that's the advice people are telling you, shut up and train, then to me it's like, I'm sorry, we're not robots. You might be a thoughtless dolt that's just going to do whatever you're told, but I know for me personally, I'm a critical thinker and I'm going to analyze everything. So because that only helps me grow. So again, thank you so much. And as I always say, stay happy, stay healthy, and no matter what, keep training. Subscribe to my channel. Take care.